Can you see it? The worst is over. The monsters in my head are scared of love. Finding people, listen up. It's never too late to change your luck. So don't let them steal your life. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side, and you'll see all the raindrops falling behind. It's a revolution, and we'll make it out tonight. It's a revolution. Can you see it? The worst is over. The monsters in my head are scared of love. Finding people, listen up. It's never too late to change your luck. So don't let them steal your life. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side, and you'll see all the raindrops falling behind. It's a revolution, and we'll make it out tonight. It's a revolution.
This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first-time subscribers and first-time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose, helping you find your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tie back into your tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that, help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and be able to put a stable foundation for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Grand Rising, everyone. Grand Rising. Hope all is well. Greetings, greetings, greetings. How's the panel this rising?
I'm in pain.
Grand Rising, everyone.
Peace, everybody. Peace, 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 peace.
So how was everyone's night?
Peace, everyone. You said, how was your night?
Yeah, how was everyone's night?
I was asleep. At 7:30.
Anything interesting, Gabrielle?
Gabrielle, like she ain't going to sleep. So what you mean night? So she ain't got no. Oh, okay. Okay, the one time. This is the first show we opened up where Gabrielle stayed on mute.
Mm-hmm.
The chime in the background says yes.
Oh, am I on mute?
No, I guess not.
So I was
Not
talking
anymore.
the whole time and nobody heard me. Interesting. Did you hear me say good rising?
Nope. Boom, not anymore.
Just did.
Wow. Did you hear me say anything
Nothing.
about the videos from
Nothing
last
else.
night?
Nothing. You didn't answer
Nope.
the question.
I did. Okay, so let me repeat what I said. I said this is what I. Okay, so
Nope.
Grand Rising,
Go ahead for the first time.
everyone. I
Come on,
laughed
man.
when you said I'm in pain. Hope you feel better. And down to the videos. What I said is, the videos had a very good night. Had videos come back to back to back to back. You know, you want the truth. You want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Okay,
Straight
right. You might have
truth,
done
straight to the point. Yeah, I was definitely on mute talking. I thought you guys were laughing at what I was saying, but
Nah.
okay. Y'all laughed on cue.
Hey, that's how we do it. Even when we ain't listening, we helping you out.
I thought you were trying to be funny. This is the first time we opened up and she on mute. I thought you were trying to be funny. And then I looked and I was like, oh, I am on mute.
Double mute. YouTube.
Okay, so yeah, that's where I'm at with them videos.
Yeah, we good.
They just tried to share some more very important information, especially dealing with the Iberian Peninsula and the Spanish and the real history on what really happened, what was really going on. And it's not a hard thing to find out by researching and checking Spanish documents. I mean, if it's the Spanish who did it, why are we reading American records when it makes sense to study records?
Absolutely. You know, it really puts, and I know we've talked a lot about perspective. Perspective keeps coming up. So it really puts a whole, I guess, a solid imprint in my mind as far as perspective. We're saying Spanish, we're saying this, we're using all these titles, you know, these renamings, but we're at times, I'm not saying everyone, because I know there's probably some people out there like, I know that, I don't have that issue. However, I've had this issue, and it's made it easier for me to remember and just, oh, okay, I'm seeing Spanish. What was Spanish at this time? Or I'm seeing.
Oh, you talking about the people timeline?
Right, because people were
Very
renamed.
important
So
timeline.
right, when we're saying Spanish, I forget. You know what? I forget his name, but I remember the last name, Clark. Had asked the question in the chat last night about who was who, and it just keeps going back.
Chris Clark?
Was it? I think it was
Chris
Chris Clark.
Chris
I remember
Clark.
the last name Clark.
Double C's, I remember.
Charles Clark. Yeah, Charles Clark. Was it?
Charles
Yeah.
Clark, there you go.
Yeah,
I was about to say Chuck. I was getting
Chuck.
close.
There you go. Chuck Clark. Peace, Chuck Clark. Charles.
Peace, Chuck Clark. Charles Clark. Charles Clark.
Charles Clark.
Yes.
You know, the algorithm just went out.
It's just one of those things like, okay, Iberian. So I'm hearing, you know, Spanish. I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that, but it's like, okay, German, Iberian. You know what I mean? It's really keeping in mind, okay, at this time, this is when, okay, we're talking about Spanish. What are we really talking about? Who are we really talking about? And what area are we talking about? You know what I mean? So it's just... I'm sorry.
It seems like the people timeline, the person, place, the thing timeline is important, but it seems like the people are really important because, yeah, when we're reading modern or even reading from somebody else's perspective, it's like, what are you going to do? What are you really going to do? You're going to keep reading it as if your imagination is not plugging in what the people look like automatically.
Right.
You got to do it right. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right. So
Right.
I was trying to repeat what Bones said earlier too. Yeah, why are we reading American history if it's about the Spanish? Why are we reading, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's important too. Most of the history that we read is from American, whatever language we speak, pretty much. So it's going to be, if it's written in English, we're pretty much going to read it. If it's written in German and it's about the Germans, we're probably going to read it in English.
Right.
So yeah, it's the people timeline, man. We got to get these faces for these places.
One of the interesting things, and we mentioned it before, and I know we're going to keep mentioning it, is that these same Iberians and the land from which they came from back then is the land that they call North Africa now.
Right.
So when they say bought African slaves, this is the part I've always told people you have to be careful in this argument, because technically they did bring African slaves. It's just at the time you referred to them as Iberians. Because what did they tell you? That they were enslaving Iberians and came over here enslaving natives. They were enslaving natives and Iberians. So now they telling you later on when they want to rewrite the story that Indians and Africans were in close proximity to each other. You know they're talking about the Iberians. We know they didn't get to that southern part and central part, with the central part of Africa until 1880 because of malaria. The only place they were bringing people and enslaving people from was the Iberian Peninsula, North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just interesting, like I said again, when you read the subject's actual history, when you read their writings, what they left behind, who gonna be able to tell it better than them? When they're telling you what they did and who they bought.
What do the visions say? When someone tells you who they are, believe them.
You better believe it.
Anyway, Nan
Please
time
believe
doing
me.
anybody, you hear the Spanish talking about no Africans. And it wouldn't be a strange and it wouldn't be a hard thing for them to talk about if that's what they was dealing with.
I mean, didn't they talk about
only 9 miles from North Africa?
That's,
you know what I'm saying? That's a walk and a dip and a hop.
You know, what's that? Oh, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's about a soccer player. I can't remember the name of the movie. But when I watched it with my son, and they give like a brief history on why they play soccer the way that they do and use the moves that they do.
You're talking about somebody from South America?
Yeah, it was a movie. It was like
Pele? I don't know if it was
Is it
Pele.
Pele?
I can't remember the name
Yeah,
of it.
it was Pele.
Yeah, Pele is probably one of the most famous soccer names of somebody that looks like us.
Right. What I found interesting when I watched it was that they were talking about, they went not too in detail, but enough to where they were talking about, you know, it's the moves in soccer that they tried to conform, and those moves were based off of it had nothing to do with soccer. It had everything to do with
basically remembering parts of the culture.
Correct. And the way soccer is, and it was like a breakdown of the way soccer is played now was more of a it was like a way to take away, like it's more structured, not structured, but I'm not sure of the word to use, but when you correct something that you consider to be kind of savage and I can't even think of the word. Okay, point being is this. It was very interesting for the things that they went back on as far as the history in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in the movie, they break down how, they separated based off of appearance. Darker, lighter. Okay, you're lighter, you're good. You're darker, oh no, we can tell. I'm just saying,
Yeah, in fact, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I end up getting a copy of Walter Plecker's letter to the registers and legislators.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you seen I posted it in the back,
Yeah,
but I actually
read
got
it.
I got the copy of the original letter, and I'm gonna put it on the website for everyone to read. It's a very interesting read, and it tells you, I think, all you need to know about our history.
If I was a clerk working in vital records or whatever back then, yeah, I'd have been scared. I'd have been scared to do my job. Like, I don't want to do that. Nope. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, because it's to the point in his letter. He wrote a letter to all the vital statistics, all the county clerks, all the court officers, all the hospitals. And what even made it worse, surnames. He sent our last names and told them all across America, anybody with these last names, mark them down as Negro.
Yep.
That's anybody with the names. They even got the list of all the surnames that he put on there to change over.
Yep. And it really made me think about... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gabrielle.
I said, is that what I slept through?
It really made me think about, I don't know if you remember me asking, this was like maybe a couple of weeks ago, when I was like, okay, why am I seeing like a complete last name change? Like, it's not similar, it's not spelled different, a whole complete different last name. And even for the men, I was just like, hold on, what's going on here? It makes more sense. Like, if my last name, if me, my husband, and my children's, the name that we were using, that we've been using, that we've been told, this name is on the list, oh no. Let's adopt a whole nother last name. Because this is, I mean, yeah, that letter was that letter was kind of scary to read. I mean, especially in the letter talking about, look, if you don't do this, you're going to jail. And the letter even basically, and this is how I interpreted it. I could have been wrong, but how I interpreted the letter is they had to have had groups of people following families or, pulling records or looking like almost like they were, this.
Hold on. Since I really missed it, what are you saying? Are you saying that he wrote?
I posted it in the chat. If you
don't want, he wrote a letter. I'm sorry.
You want to start with that?
You want Gabrielle? Yeah, we can start with that. Let me do the shout out. We can break that letter down.
Bad.
I mean, I posted the chat.
Yeah, that'll work.
No problem.
Peace to the chat.
Grand Rising to TMH. Grand Rising Big Nelson. Bless Your Love. Phoenix Rose. Tiny Ofo Ofofo. Dat Boy Wig. Nature's Void. Let me move down to the other one. Grand Rising, also the Big Hawk, Feathered Dragon, Michael Harris, Powerton 9. That's everyone I see in the chat so far this rising. And as others come in, we'll give them shout outs. But yeah, I posted this letter to the register in the chat. If someone pull it up, we can open it up.
I got it up. You want me to put the link in the...
I put it in the chat already.
Okay. Let me. You can go ahead and read it.
Yeah, let me get some fresh eyes.
Yeah, because you didn't read it last night. Okay, yeah, because this thing was like, this is kind of intense. This was a letter to officials. Nope.
So all the officials, all the hospitals.
Yeah.
And Hangouts, it's in new to this chat. It's in that one.
Humanity.
Say Virginia Humanity.
Yeah, I got it. I pulled it up just now.
To the point as we go in it, you will hear that our ancestors knew who they were. Because we had ancestors that told the U.S. government that, listen, we'll go to war and fight for you, but you got to put our status back at Indian.
Correct.
Ooh, hold up. All right.
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah. This was
one of the smoking guns relatives.
Yeah. This was very like I said, I read this like, if I was a clerk back then, nah, I quit. I'm done. Nope.
They said, the rate I'm moving, I might have to get a new name just to go in the library.
Man, I would have quit. If I was a clerk, I would have quit my job and changed first, middle, and last name. Matter of fact, I'd have changed my year of birth. And like, this was it to me. Right. That's how I took it. My bad. I'm going on mute. This
is a letter from Walter Plecker to local registrars et al. January 1943. Man, 1942 was World War I, right?
That's another thing that had me tripping. This is 1943.
Yeah, letting you know that we were still calling ourselves and being considered in particular areas in the 1940s.
Listen, I was born in 1979. This wasn't too long before, like.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not too long for a lot of us. We got parents that were born in these years.
Yes, so man, okay,
that means
that
means our grandparents had little papooses everywhere in 1942. So yeah, this is right up everybody's alley.
Jordan ancestors' records got changed because of Walter Plecker. He was the one who went back. He just didn't do it. Walter Plecker went back. He went back and started changing prior ones on people that already passed. That's how bad this is. Let's go ahead and dive into this.
And just a heads up, I don't know if everybody has heard this name before, but this is a name that gets thrown around in at least the Indian community online. I hear this a lot in the truth movie. Walter Plecker did this. Walter Plecker did that. I ain't never seen no proof.
I actually talked with a couple of chiefs who were breaking down other things that Walter Plecker, when I tell you I agree with you. Walter Plecker, when they talk about, and now it makes sense. Seeing this letter made sense. Okay, he did go back on records that were already, established, and went back on records and changed those records.
They literally crossed out. Yeah, they literally crossed out and wrote in what they wanted. But you can start no sellout.
These can be your grandparents. All right. Local registrars, physicians, health officers, nurses, school superintendents, and clerks of the courts. Dear co-workers, our December 1942 letter to local registrars, also mailed to the clerks, set forth the determined effort to escape from the Negro race of groups of quote-unquote free issues or descendants of the quote-unquote free mulattoes of early days, so listed prior to 1865 in the United States Census and various types of state records as distinguished from slave Negroes.
Listen, we know what happened in 1866. The fact that he goes all the way back to refer to 1865, and this letter is sent out in 1943 in reference to a letter that he sent out in 1942.
Get out of here.
And they're talking about the same group of people. They're talking about us. Referring it back to 1865, 1866, he's letting you know that. You can continue.
Like you said, smoking gun. Still hot. Now that these people are playing up the advantages. Hold on one second. Let me clear this up. Hold on. All right. Mic check?
Yep.
All right. Now that these people are playing up the advantages gained by being permitted to give, quote unquote, Indian as the race of the child's parents on birth certificates, we see the great mistake made in not stopping the organized propagation of the racial falsehood. They have been using the advantage thus gained as an aid to intermarriage into the white race and to attend white schools, and now for some time they have been refusing to register with war draft boards as Negroes, as required by the board, which are faithfully performing their duties. 3 of these Negroes from Caroline County, man, I keep clicking the screen. 3 of these Negroes from Caroline County were sentenced to prison on January 12 in the United States Court at Richmond for refusing to obey the draft laws unless permitted to classify themselves as quote unquote Indians.
One more time.
I'm gonna read that one again. 3 of these Negroes from Caroline County were sentenced to prison on January 12 in the United States Court at Richmond for refusing to obey the draft law unless permitted to classify themselves as quote unquote Indian.
So that means that, yeah, we'll go ahead and do it, but you not gonna have me say I'm not Indian.
I wonder if they were appalled.
So they sent them to prison because they wouldn't allow themselves to be classified as anything
Negro.
other than Indian.
Indian. They would not let go of their Indian title. And what do we know in history? That a lot of our ancestors were persecuted if they can call themselves an Indian.
Yep.
If they even spoke their native language.
Mm-hmm.
And this man sent it to everyone, not just Virginia.
My coworkers.
Yeah, he sent it out to all the hospitals, all the schools, all the county clerks, all the courts.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can move to the next one because it gets good.
Some of these mongrels, finding that they have been able to sneak in their birth certificates unchallenged as Indians, are now making a rush to register as white. Upon investigation, we find that a few local registrars have been permitting such certificates to pass through their hands, unquestioned and without warning, our office of the fraud. Those attempting this fraud should be warned that they are liable to a penalty of 1 year in the penitentiary, Section 5099A of the Code. Several clerks have likewise been actually granting them licenses to marry whites, or at least to marry amongst themselves as Indian or white. The danger of this error always confronts the clerk who does not inquire carefully as to the residence of the woman when he does not have positive information. The law is explicit that the license be issued by the clerk of the county or city in which the woman resides.
And you see still here, they're basing it off of who?
The woman. Hold on, were they still taking last names back in the 1940s? Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Or was that happening in Indian County, Indian communities, taking the last name of the woman, of the white?
See, what I find interesting is this letter also exposes the fact that if you were and are Indian during this time, if you're Indian, you know, it's the same as being white. And if you're Indian, then you can also claim white. If that makes sense.
Yes, that what you would learn through history at this time, Indian and white had the same privileges.
Correct.
That's why.
Oh,
if
please, what was that we read that showed that? We had oh my goodness, we read something recently, like last week, that showed the status is exactly the same as white. Indian and white were the same.
Yep.
Yeah. This is why they were removing mulattoes and Negroes.
Not the same. They were they had the same rights, I would say.
Yeah, the same rights in society. Basically, this is why they started stripping mulattoes, started stripping Negroes. But you can go further on so we can touch on it because it talked about it.
Right. To all of you, in determining just which are the mixed families, we have made a list of their surnames by counties and cities as complete as possible at this time. What?
One more time.
Bruh, hold on now. Let me go back to the top so I can. This says letter from Walter Plecker to local registrars. Okay, let me just make sure that's what I'm reading right now. To aid all of you in determining just which are the mixed families, we have made a list of their surnames by counties and cities as complete as possible at this time.
But when they say mixed families,
What
possibly could they be mixed with? If an Indian, if a mulatto and the Indian and the Negro was all the same, so you can't be mixed with that. What are they mixed with?
Okay, so I put it in the chat. This is like maybe a week or two ago. I pulled some stuff up to where it was North Carolina, Virginia. Kentucky. It was Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia. Because what we understand now as the borders of each state weren't the same borders then. And so those bordered states now they were just different then. They were bordered different then. And it was showing how they were keeping track of Iberians, Africans that they had brung as indentured servants. They also were keeping track of Irish, because the Irish, they were keeping track of the Irish and the towns that they were having them set up close to Indian territory, in addition to the Irish that they were bringing over, the Irish, German, and Iberians that they were bringing over. They would choose what farm they would work on depending on how, and this was in those records, depending on how the people running the farms were treating the quote unquote white people. But I couldn't figure out what white people they were referring to, because they were talking about Irish. But there were also Indians, quote unquote, and white people working on these farms, and depending on how they were treated, determined whether Iberians, Germans, and Irish, if they would work on those farms or not.
I mean, just think about it. Go back to the 2 videos from last night. They told you that the Iberians were complaining because how they were treating them as slaves. And what did Spain say? Spain believed that through war. See, we keep saying slaves when in reality, these were POWs.
Mm-hmm.
Big Nelson, the surnames, I'll have that posted up on the website, because it's a long list of names that they put out. But they will be on the website before 5 this evening. Or you can continue, no so loud.
Oh, my bad. I'm on mute.
Let's see, what was that? Oh, here we go. I'm just gonna read it again from the top. To aid all of you in determining just which are the mixed families, we have made a list of their surnames by counties and cities as complete as possible at this time. This list should be preserved by all, even by those in counties and cities not included, as these people are moving around over the state and changing race at the new place. A family has just been investigated, which was always recorded as Negro around Glade Springs, Washington County, but which changed to white and married as such in Roanoke County. Sound like VA to me. This is going on constantly and can be prevented only by care on the part of local registrars, clerks, doctors, health workers, and school authorities. This is trifling.
Basically,
trifling.
If you think about it, they're talking about Indians that can pass.
Facts.
Indians who are light enough that can pass for white, that can go to another state, another area, and people would identify them as white.
A bunch of our ancestors, as a matter of fact, not just my great grandma.
Oh yeah, I know my whole family split. One side of my family identified as white, the other ones were too dark. Got labeled Black and African American.
See, I can only name sporadic folks. You got a whole family that say, you know what, y'all?
Yeah, they were light enough.
Rights. Let's get these rights.
In the family history, it states that the bunch is split. That one half was light enough and they married and identified white, even to this day. So yeah, I mean, a lot of us in our family history, a lot of us can see where this happened. What side of the family was I able to identify as one thing and the other side couldn't? So a lot of us are living proof of this still.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. That stops a lot of, I mean, I don't know, people disown their family or don't know they have family that looks that way, or just in denial altogether. I don't know. Do your genealogy. Stop
Yeah, because
saying
if they
it's
telling
racist,
you
racist stuff.
this
You might as
time,
well write this letter yourself. Go ahead, my bad.
it's Indian tribes here, Iberians being bought over, Chinese being bought over.
Don't forget about that. Yeah.
So it's a lot of mixing, a lot of people mixing. And we know that it's mixing because we have court letters and
We got
writings,
laws against mixing.
that show that they had a problem with this mixing, because this mixing was allowing people to identify as other things that they didn't want them to.
Yeah.
You know, so now let's go back. Let's just take the 1800s. Look at all the different people that was intermingling in the 1800s. Now fast forward to now. If you're not actually tracking your family through records, you have no idea who you come from and where you come from. You know, I mean, this is just me. This is my opinion on this. For people to be like, purity, ain't nobody 100% pure. We need to stop that. I mean, since man been on the planet, wasn't nobody pure. As sure as we can get up and walk to the other side of the road, people been cohabitating and mingling.
Yep.
I mean, we don't have to like it, but it is what it is, you know? And even seeing, when we read these stories, it lets you know that the population of people really didn't have a racial issue. It was the people that was in charge that had these racial issues, that taught everybody this hate, that put this on everybody. And that's what we have to realize, is that it been done to us for so long, we have adopted that hate. Some of us, to the point we just hate because, oh, they did it to us. But who did what to you? I mean, really, who did what to you? And if you're not studying your family story, then you have no idea what was done. I mean, that's just like how you have some people that's mad at Europeans. But you study your family lineage, you find out that you have European and have Indian and non-African. Then what? Now what? You are who you are. And who you come from don't dictate what you can do and who you're gonna be. We have no control over who we come from. And I've been saying this for a while, I'm gonna say it again. If there's anybody in the sound of my voice, before the moment you was conceived, there was an application for you to choose your skin color and your sex, please let me know, because I didn't get that one.
I don't think I got that one.
And I say that because we have to be cautious of not picking up these people's social construct and progressing it forward for them. And a lot of times when we get emotional and we don't take the time out to actually study something, we end up moving their agenda forward. And you can continue.
Let's go back to the family. A family has just been investigated, which was always recorded as Negro around Glade Springs, Washington County, but which changed to white and married as such in Roanoke County. This is going on constantly and can be prevented only by care on the part of local registrars, clerks, doctors, health workers, and school authorities. Help me out. Please report all known or suspicious cases to the Bureau of Vital Statistics, giving names, ages, parents, and as much other information as possible. All certificates of these people showing Indian or white are now being rejected and returned to the physician or midwife, but local registrars hereafter must not permit them to pass their hands uncorrected or unchallenged and without a note of warning to us. 150,000 other mulattoes in Virginia are watching eagerly the attempt of their pseudo-Indian brethren, ready to follow in a rush when the first have made a break in the dike. And the dike is a wall that prevents flooding from the sea. So I'm not cussing.
You know, this would make sense why you find, I'll speak for me, why I found 2 different birth records, but there aren't, they're birth records, but they may be years apart, and why one will say mulatto, or one will say Negro, or one will say white. This makes sense to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes sense where if I'm finding, which me personally, I can't stand when I get to Virginia pulling records, but I'll pull records that start off in Virginia, but then it'll go to a whole another state where I'll see it in Missouri or California or Texas, a whole another state where there's a whole another birth record, and the year is, a couple of years off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it explains, because I seen the same thing on mine to where I had family members back in the 1800s, they leave the Carolinas and they got them labeled as mulatto. But when they get to the Alabama, now they're reclassified as Negro.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it shows what they did. That his intention was to reclassify.
Mm-hmm.
What was his belief? That there's only 2 races. And this is the thing that, so when people had this conversation, I don't understand why people don't point this out, because you have congressional records, law, court cases to show that it happened. Is that he believed there was only 2 races. So again, if you're in America at the time of Walter Plecker, you either identified as what? Black or white. That's how you got identified.
Yeah.
So if you was
was a Negro or white or black?
An immigrant. Well, black and white, we'll say Negro. You can say Negro or white, black or white, but basically he believed it was 2 categories.
Yeah.
So everybody got lumped into 2 categories. And not even think about it. Go back before Walter Plecker. Let's rewind to 1790. 1790, federal census had what? Free white men, free white women, free people of color, and slaves.
We did the show on the categories.
No, my bad. White men, free white women, all others free, and slaves. Yep. So now, if you're not a white man or a white woman, and you free, what category would you be in? Wouldn't that be the all others free? It seems like they lump people into all others free and slaves. This is 1790. So by the time you get to the 1900s, already people already been mixed up and confused.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Michael Harris Brown Cheek, and it shows a lot of times by knowing this information, it shows why a lot of our ancestors relocated, why a lot of them left particular areas that was home to them. Overclassification. Walter Plecker believed what he said in his writings, that there are no more Indians, all Indians, he considered Negroes, because all Indians have been contaminated by Negroes. This is this man's own writings.
Well, I also pulled some records in Virginia where, so I pulled records that once an indentured servant, whether they be Iberian, whether they be Irish, German, wherever they're from, once an indentured servant married, and I saw where they were records where I pulled the court records, where that once they married an Indian, then they no longer were in servitude to whoever they were in service to. And so people were taking people to court like, look, if I lose this servant, this is what you have to pay me. Or since you went ahead and married, then you have to work for me for another 3 years. Then too, I also saw records where the women who they were classifying as white, when they had a child by someone who was classified as Indian, Negro, or mulatto, they would actually put that
Change the whole
person.
family status.
Right, and then they would put that person in an indentured servitude for a year. Like they would take them to court if they had children. The women, there was a couple of records where I pulled where it was Irish women that had children by people who they classified as mulatto, and mulatto, Negro, and Indian. They had children by them, and they no longer could be of service. So they had to take them to court in order to get their money's worth, so to speak. So it was making it to where they were. And I'm bringing it up because it's reminding me with, okay, we're losing our quote unquote servants. That's it. That's it. I'm reminded of that.
There was any more? No sellout. That was the end of that one.
That was the end of the letter.
Yeah, and it gives you something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a documented letter that was sent out to change our ancestors' status.
Yeah, and it makes even more sense when I've pulled records where the mother and father had one last name and the daughter had a completely different last name. It wasn't even the same last name as her husband's. And where like it makes more sense.
But my question is this: if these melanated men and women, some of them a little darker, some of them a lot lighter, were being born in hospitals, midwives, and stuff like that, but they were being labeled Indian at birth.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question that I ask is this: why would you be naming Negroes Indian at birth?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they come from, you know what I'm saying? Unless they are the Indians.
Exactly.
Because why else would he need a letter?
Bruh, well, I was thinking about, he wrote this letter and it's not like he's defending the real Indians. He said, don't let them do that. What does that even mean?
He basically said there are no more Indians. That all the Indians are Negro. This is from his own words.
Smoking gun.
And we know on the census, people can argue up and down, but the census shows that Indians were reclassified as Negro because they didn't put the ability to claim Indian to almost 100 and some years later, and even then you can claim it, somebody else put it down for you. So by this time, they already had a narrative on what they wanted the Indian to be or look like. And basically, if you did not adopt European lifestyle, European ways, they wasn't finna let you be an Indian, not classify as one. Even when it comes to the wars, we know that our ancestors fought in wars. You read what 3 of them didn't want to fight, was willing to go to prison because they didn't get their status changed. Sound like Muhammad Ali before Muhammad Ali, but because their status wasn't being changed. Then again, my question is, how did they get the status originally? Because that's who they are. Why would the hospital be calling them as children Indians? Sad. Facts, Michael Harris Brown Cheek. We always been moving around back and forth. I mean, look at some of us now who have brothers and sisters. How many of us stay in the same spot where we were born and we were children? No, as we get older, we branch out. We spread out. I mean, any deep thoughts on what we read this rising so far? Mr.
Man.
I just like how he ain't have to defend the other Indians. We didn't even say nothing about them.
It's really got
It's
me
crazy.
wondering, and I'm thinking about it now. Those names and those records, and I mean, those are just that list is just one list. How many records did they go back on and change, where you don't see it where it's crossed out and rewritten next to it? How many records did they go back and just completely change? You know what I mean?
I don't know if the New Deal has any connection with it, but I know that a lot of people moved after the New Deal. I don't know much about
yes,
it.
the New Deal is attached to it because a lot of people don't know
That was
that New
1933.
Deal is also what you would call the New Indian Deal, the Reorganization
Right.
Act. They reorganized the tribes where they were like, for the tribes that are still here that need assistance, in order for you to get this assistance, the United States government will have a hand in your leadership, will pick your leaders, and in return, you can get this, this, and this.
Yeah, because the New Deal was 33 to 39.
Yeah.
And that was 1939, the reorganization. Yeah.
Yeah, 1934 is the Indian Reorganization Act.
So pretty much any of our relatives that might have moved because of the New Deal or anything like that, that could classify as white, probably did when they landed somewhere else. And then a few years later, Mr. Plecker
He had the names. Think about how he had these Indian surnames. How else would he have all these Indian? Think about it. This man had a list of names. He had more names than they could show you for records of Africans on a ship. How?
Right. Houseway.
Think about it. They can't show you these names coming off a NAM boat, but he got them all to where he could send them all across the nation to be like, hey, change these people background.
Don't let them do it. Don't let it. I bet you don't get none. Bet you don't get it. Hope they
And
don't
not to mention, this is in the 1940s, he got all these names and records.
Yeah, exactly. This is recent. This is probably why your grandma's saying, no, I don't remember. Nope, I don't know nothing about no Indians. If she says that. If she says it.
Because remember this, when it came down to the census and all this stuff, you didn't fill it out for yourself. Someone did it for you.
It sounds like McGraw-Hill.
And I still want to know why ain't none of these people back in the time got labeled as no immigrant.
Oh, man.
Think about it. We know immigrants were coming.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Chinese were coming. They had to stop the Chinese.
Yeah. You had these people marked down as immigrants. So where are these so-called immigrant records for all these so-called
African slaves?
And the only people they got records for like that you can consider Africans is the Iberians.
Wow.
Again, the Iberians call North Africa today. So you see how when they be in history and they try to update the terms and the names to be politically correct, so they say. So when they're saying African American, these are descendants of Iberians would be your African Americans. These would be the people that mixed in with our ancestors. And we do know that they didn't bring them by the millions, because what shows this? All you have to do is study the history of South Carolina, that the majority of your Iberians, that's where they were taken. And what did they tell you? South Carolina was the biggest slave port of Africans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't they got the records of how
of the Iberians going there, so-called Moors? Yeah, the South Carolina Sundry Act or Sundry Act, yeah, dealing with them 4 Moors who didn't want to be treated a particular way. If you study the history, this is where the majority of your Iberians to North America was brought to. These are your Africans again. remember, the same way how they flip our names, they do that to everybody on the planet. Do not think for 1 minute it's just us. Because if you just did it to us, you cannot pull this off.
Big facts.
You got to subject everybody to
McGraw Hill.
If possible. And I said this before. The same Europeans went to the same schools we went to.
Facts.
We got all out of the same books. We got taught the same BS history.
We took the same tests. Down the hallway. We took the same tests.
Remember, this form of hate that they try to give you, it's for a reason. It's to make you emotional. And I think I mentioned it last week. It was the I caught on. It's the reason why they were showing us Roots back in the 80s in school.
I might watch that for the first time this year. Is they playing it? Anybody know where they playing Roots at? I need to see this.
Probably in some school. This month for it.
Mockumentary. You breaking up a little bit, Bones. We got a little shopping that's going. We can hear you, but.
All right. Then you got to ask yourself, if they knew this movie was a lie ever since 1979, why is it still being shown?
Bruh, come on now.
Why is it still, why on television networks even showing this?
Tell lies. Your vision is telling lies. Man, that's
television.
That you can plagiarize somebody else's work. Think about it. This man plagiarized somebody else's work.
And it still
got sued for it. To where they said this is the worst case of plagiarism they have ever seen.
So he lost?
The plagiarism.
He lost?
Yes, he lost. He had to pay the man.
He lost. He lost.
Listen,
like I met the girl who's the cousin to him, and it's crazy because she said her mother told her and her brothers and their grand family members, like the aunts and all them, told them they were Indian, told them they were something else, told them that, and this is the cousin of that dude who plagiarized that story.
Did he release this as like a true story?
Yes.
Yes, that's how they did.
He released it as, look, I traced my family lineage, I did my genealogy, and this is the story of my family.
This is my story.
There's no ain't no Kente tribe. He made all that up.
Man, come on now. Okay.
He got the name from the fictional book.
That's what I'm saying. This true story is based off a fictional book. That would make either the book true or the movie.
No, I got it. It's truly fiction.
Truly fictional. Oh man.
Yeah, he based his real book on a truly fictional book. Yeah, truly fictional.
I'm gonna watch Roots. I'm gonna watch it for the first time in my whole life. I'm gonna watch it. I done seen from it. I watched the Family Guy Roots. But no.
I don't know about y'all. I got a school behind that movie because I asked one question. Why these people in Roots ain't speaking African?
Did they hire Africans?
No, they had whatchamacallit play. Remember Reading Rainbow? Oh, I forgot his name.
I know the main character for sure. And who else? Louis Gossett Jr. in that movie, ain't he?
Listen, all people in that movie.
I was about to say. Let me search the cast for a second. Let me see if it was an African in the cast.
Because they knew doggone well at that time.
They're trying to get some work.
There's no way you could have put a bunch of Africans on screen and had us go for it.
They'd be like, hold up.
Not in the 70s.
Why did we care? Because you'd be like, that's not us. People would look. Okay, so John Amos, LeVar Burton. I don't know, Leslie Uggams. Hold on, I'm just looking for the African cast member. I'm sorry. Yeah, Louis Gossett Jr. I knew I wasn't tripping. I seen parts of this movie. Cicely Tyson. O.J. Simpson was in this movie. Good gracious. Maya Angelou. You know what? I ain't gonna read no more because I'm looking for. I found one. G2 Kumbuka. Let's see who he is. He was a wrestler. He was an American actor. He's listed as an American actor. Bruh, hold on. Born Helena, Alabama. That sounds like a name change, bruh. Yeah. Or he probably had come from a family with a name like that. Died in Atlanta, Georgia. It don't seem like he went over. I gotta look at his life, maybe. Man was a stunt double. While y'all playing.
You didn't get lead actual African roles until we got into the positive light. Y'all notice that?
Oh, come on, son.
Come to all your superheroes and stuff like that.
Come on. I ain't gonna read no more cast members because I don't see no Africans. I'm sorry. Scatman Carruthers, come on, son.
And that's my thing. Why that movie don't have an asterisk by it?
Bro, that's trifling. That. Come on now. I now want to see when it's aired.
That is known. It's shown every year. And they've been showing this movie. Listen, this is the one movie during February. You know they're gonna show on the network. But we only got like 8 of them, and they're gonna keep repeating them. I mean, think about it.
And then they remake it, Roots, I think.
Yeah, they remade it.
TV Roots.
Yeah, they remade it.
Oh, so this is opening. It says based on Alex Haley's family history.
Yeah, the history that he made up.
Yeah, that's the first line that introduces the movie. How it's called. What kind of movie is this? What's this about? Based on Alex Haley's family history. Okay, cool. All right.
They depend on people not looking it up.
Can somebody do his genealogy? Gabrielle, you want to do Alex Haley's genealogy? Somebody had to have done it. Somebody had to have done it.
The court case alone.
Court case, exactly.
And it wasn't. It's his MO. No disrespect to the brother whatsoever or the family, but he did the same thing with Malcolm X autobiography, where he tried to come out with Malcolm X's autobiography, and the family came out and said they never even talked to this man like that.
He sound like Donald
Malcolm X sit down with Alex Haley. So how you writing this man autobiography and he ain't even like you?
Oh, man.
I mean, just crazy. Yes, Celestial Love, he did got sued. That's public info. You can type that in you can Google that.
Hold on, he got sued and lost. Don't forget.
Yeah, sued and lost.
And I cannot find where they've changed this to fictional. Okay, hold on. Here we go. I'm on IMDb. A dramatization of Alex Haley's family line.
Exactly.
That's telling you
what it said again. What's the first word?
Dramatization.
Arthur Alex Haley's family.
Yeah,
that's a sign.
I know y'all seen dramatizations on what was the show we used to watch back in the day on Fridays at TGIF? Most Wanted. What the dude used? That was dramatizations. That was the fakest stuff I've ever seen. That ain't no crime. That's fake. Yeah, America's Most Wanted. Dramatization? You can't even just call it what it is. Can we use some other adjectives? I think that describes what we're talking about. Oh man.
There you go. Power 10-9. A lot of people don't even know that.
What's that?
Dr. Leonard Jeffries was an advisor to the movie. A Pan-African. Somebody that was pushing this. People don't realize this movie was used to push us to Africa because they tried before with the Colonization Act and all that, and it didn't happen. Whatchamacallit said he was raised in Henning, Tennessee, and that's what it is. Unsolved Mysteries.
Unsolved Mysteries. Dang, I couldn't get it. I was trying to get the graphic in my head with the what was the dude that did it? I couldn't remember. I think his son does it now or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm over here googling all the problems with Roots. And it's out there. It's out there. People, oh man, the New York Times.
Yeah, all your main writers and stuff tell you that it's fake.
Wait, did you pull the same? It was an archive newspaper.
Yeah, 1978.
Yep. December 15th.
It was soon
Before
after.
they aired it, think about it. Time it came out, it was considered fake and fictitious. So why is it still in our culture in 2020?
Can we read this? We're gonna read this. We're gonna have to read this now.
Drop it.
Look, okay, can you drop that link? It's the New York Times.
I got it. I'm dropping it.
Plagiarism suit is settled.
Wait, the one you have is for December 15th, 1978?
Yep, it has the
okay, I got it.
The print. Yeah, New York Times archives. About the archive. Nope. So this is digitized
John
version
Wall.
of the article.
Unsolved Mysteries, John Wall.
There you go. Man, is he a Walton? Walton? He on Walmart?
No, Walsh.
Walsh. Okay, I thought you said Walton. I was gonna say. Okay, this is a digitized. Okay, I'm not reading that. It's digitized, y'all, of an article from the Times print archive before the start of online publication, 1996. All right. Alex Haley settled a lawsuit yesterday by acknowledging that his world-renowned book Roots contains some material from a relatively unknown novel about slavery that was published 9 years earlier.
Hold on, what was that? One more time for the people in the nosebleed. Beautiful people this rising.
Opening paragraph. Am I off mute? Alex Haley settled a lawsuit yesterday. Mind you, this article was written December 15th, 1978. Settled a lawsuit yesterday by acknowledging that his world-renowned book, Roots, contained some material from a relatively unknown novel about slavery that was published 9 years earlier. The settlement ended the 6-week trial of a suit by Harold Corlander, a 70-year-old author from Bethesda, Maryland, who contended there were substantial similarities between Roots and his own earlier novel, The African. He sued in federal district court in Manhattan for more than half the profits of Roots. More than half the profits of Roots. Let me get all that.
Give me that, and that.
As the trial was about to reach a climax with summations by the opposing lawyers, they issued the following statement. Quote, "The suit has been amicably settled out of court." Alex Haley acknowledges and regrets that vacious material from The African by Harold Corlander found their way into his book Roots. Do we know which parts, or did he just settle out of court as fast as he could, so we didn't know what parts? Under the agreement to settle, the amount of money...
The whole Kunta Kinte comes from The African.
I didn't read, I was about to say, because I didn't read The African.
The story on how the whole slavery story and the narrative what happened to Kunta's family is in The African. All the key parts of Roots come from the story The African.
Oh man, are we doing a Black History show right now? We need to stop. Hold on, let me read the rest of this so we can move on to CDBGs. Under the agreement to settle, the amount of money that will be paid to Mr. Corlander and his publisher, Crown, was not disclosed. But the nature of this case made it seem likely that the amount would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Wrong, because ain't they still playing Roots? And doesn't that mean Alex Haley's
think about it. They dropped the television. They dropped them out of the lawsuit.
What, the television series?
That's the TV, the television network.
The new one that just came out?
No, even back then. See, what happened is he settled out of court. It took the television networks off the hook. They didn't create it. They wasn't backing it. But my question is still, why when this movie comes on, it don't say a fictional story? They have always perpetrated on our people as it's fact.
It's our story. It's our story. We have many of family members that have gone through that, brought over here by the millions and the bajillions. I'm gonna continue on. The defendants in the suit were Mr. Haley and his publishers, Doubleday and Dell. The American Broadcasting Company, which televised Roots, was dropped as a defendant by mutual agreement earlier in the trial.
ABC.
Roots rapidly became enormously successful after it was published in 1976. Enormously. It won a Pulitzer Prize, sold millions of copies, and produced a series of television programs that exerted a powerful impact throughout the country. the country. In contrast, the African sold 14,000 copies in hardcover and 130,000 in paperback during several years after its publication in 1967. Judge Robert J. Ward, who conducted the trial without a jury, proposed a settlement a few weeks ago after Mr. Corlander's lawyer, Robert N. Kaplan, presented the case for the plaintiffs. Oh, wait a minute. That's a run-on sentence. Let me go back to the top. Judge Robert J. Ward, who conducted the trial without a jury, proposed a settlement a few weeks ago after Mr. Corlander's lawyer, Robert N. Kaplan, presented the case for the plaintiffs. But the defense lawyers, George Berger and Robert Callaghy, rejected the proposal. After the negotiations on the proposal broke down, the defense lawyers moved for mistrial, arguing that the judge had proposed a settlement for an amount that they had rejected. The amount was not disclosed, but the defense lawyers said it raised a question about whether the judge could continue the trial with impartiality. Judge Ward, stressing his impartiality, ruled that the trial would continue. He had made it clear at the opening of the trial that the key issue would be, quote, whether there is substantial similarity between Roots and the African, unquote. A similar case was dismissed last September by another judge, Marvin E. Frankel, who ruled there were only insignificant similarities between Roots and a 1966 novel called Jubilee that had been written by Margaret Walker Alexander, a professor at Jackson State College in Mississippi. So wait a minute.
Basically what he did,
he pulling stuff from everywhere to create a book.
Basically, that's what he did. He took fictional writings from other authors years before him and combined them into one.
So I clicked real quick. And I apologize.
Nobody likes to click up.
And I don't want to go too far. You know me. I apologize. I'm not trying to take it too far. But I pulled up a Wikipedia link for Harold Corlander. Now, it's very interesting because reading his little bio, and I'm not trying to be dismissive by saying little, but reading his bio, there was a guy, and I'm trying to figure out if this is the same guy that was going, they talk about he was going all around in the South recording different artists. And you know how they have the, what's it called? It's stories where they talk about artists who never really made it big, and then they pass away, and then their music becomes big or whatnot. So I pulled the link. I'm gonna put it in the chat. If you don't mind us reading this after you finish reading
this. What is that? That ain't no tabloid, is it?
No.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let's read it. Oh, I ain't done. Am I done? I ain't done. Look, I'm not.
Is you done?
No, you Spanish. No, I'm American. Her suit. I think we do this. What? No. The book. Mississippi. Nope. Yeah. Okay. Let me read that again. A similar case was dismissed last September by another judge, Marvin E. Frankel, who ruled there were only insignificant similarities between Roots and a 1966 novel called Jubilee that had been written by Margaret Walker Alexander, a professor at Jackson State College of Mississippi. The book by Dr. Alexander, who is one of the country's most respected Black writers, was based on what she described as the true story of her great-grandmother. She said her book depicted Black life in Georgia before, during, and after the Civil War. Her suit, which was filed in Manhattan in April 1977, alleged that parts of quote-unquote Roots had been largely copied from her book. At the same time, Mr. Corlander reported that Roots contained some striking similarities to his book, and he filed his suit the next month. Mr. Corlander is a novelist who has written 27 books, many of them drawing heavily in folklore. Sorry. He is not Black. His book, The African, is a novel that explores the transitions of Africans from tribal freedom to plantation slavery.
But it's fictional.
I just looked over to the right. I looked away from the screen. I'm not. Yeah. Heavily in folklore. Shortly before the copyright infringement suits were filed, the Sunday Times of London reported that its investigation by Mark Ottaway had raised many questions about the factual basis of the African portion of Mr. Haley's account of his ancestors' journey from what is now Gambia to slavery in America. You got people over in London questioning your stuff, bruh. What's going on? Mr. Haley had conceded that parts of Roots were fictionalized, but he denied that he had knowingly made any factual errors. He defended his book about his ancestors as a, quote, symbolic history of a people, unquote. Symbolic history of a people. It's a broad brush stroke. In the case of the African, Mr. Berger argued for the defense that Roots was the result of a colossal research effort by Mr. Haley. He added there was no substantial, quote, no substantial similarity between the two books within the meaning of the copyright law, unquote. Mr. Haley, testifying in his own defense, vehemently denied that he had taken any of the plot or characters in Roots from the African. He said that his book was based on the, quote, the story of my own maternal family, unquote, through 7 generations from Africa to America.
How, Sway?
Haley concedes 3 passages. According to Mr. Haley, who is 57 years old and lives in Los Angeles, he had never even heard of the African until after Roots had been published. But he conceded that 3 brief passages in his book had apparently come from the earlier book. The passages, yeah, I know, right? What? Shouldn't he have been in contempt for lying? Wait. Okay, according to Mr. Haley, who is 57 years old and obviously senile, and lives in Los Angeles, he had never even heard of the African until after Roots had been published. But he conceded that 3 brief passages in his book had apparently come from the earlier book. So he wrote his book and then added passages after he read the other book? Okay. The passages were identified by Mr. Haley as references to Kunta's grandfather on page 225 of Roots. Kunta awakening more lighthearted on page 321 and a camp meeting on page 369. He explained that someone must have given the passages to him without attributing them to the African.
But I thought hold on.
My cousin
said he did family research.
That's what I thought. That's what I heard. Okay. Many people gave him handwritten notes and other material while he was doing his extensive research, Mr. Haley said, and student volunteers went through some of the material to find anything that might be useful to him. What a writer. Somewhere, he added, somebody gave me something that came from the African. That's the best, honest explanation I can give. That's preposterous. The 3 passages mentioned by Mr. Haley were cited by Mr. Kaplan, the lawyer for the plaintiffs, who also referred to a number of other passages that had allegedly been copied. An example cited by Mr. Kaplan concerned a field call, quote, or field call, unquote, used by plantation slaves in the African. He said that the quote, the key words are, well, yo ho a ho, don't you hear me calling you, unquote. A similar incident occurred in the Roots manuscript, he continued, and it says, from the road not long after, the field hands heard a rising, lingering sing-song, yo ho a ho, spelled the same way, don't you hear me calling you.
You got a made-up phrase that ain't nobody used in your book, this man book. Don't know nothing about it.
Yeah, one of your students, though. One of these volunteers. It's a volunteer fault. What's the name? I don't know. I ain't write them down. All right.
Yeah.
That's the best, honest explanation I can give.
As I'm making it up on the spot.
Honestly. Honestly, Your Majesty, I'm sorry. Man, no, that's it. That's all. That's terrible.
My thing. If he know that he didn't, Why didn't he continue the case? Why did he settle out of court and just pay?
Says more than half the profits. I want to know what the profits was. That book's still being sold and the show's still being shown. So, Mr. Miniseries over him.
But then again, it shows you. But this shows you that there was an ulterior motive, because everyone knows it's fake, but you still pushing it.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm about to post this article. Where Gabrielle at?
What you thinking on, Gabrielle?
Look, one thing I'm saying is this. Something else is going on.
It's called propaganda.
I mean, I'm gonna say it's a little bit more than propaganda, because I pulled some other stuff that, he plagiarized apparently a couple of books.
Whole career.
A couple of books.
His whole career.
Now, he also plagiarized books that were written by people who actually went to other countries.
Yep.
Okay, so somebody apparently did his genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, doing his genealogy, he had no African descent.
Uh-huh. I mean, let's line this up on the timeline. You got what? 1969, I'm Black and I'm Proud. 1979 was 77. We'll say what, 76 or 79? You got Roots, pushing that you are African. 1989, you get the African American title. 99, 2000, you can finally claim it. I mean, propaganda, program.
Even the story about his great-great-grandmother Kizzy, the Ann Waller was an adult when he's referring to this was a childhood friend of his great-great-grandmother's. Even that was debunked.
Yeah, the whole story fictional. Nothing checked that. But this is my question. If Roots is never released as a major thing in our households, how many of our people are running with this? We African.
$500,000 for bail.
Think about it. If we never seen it on TV, we're talking about television. We're talking about like the ultimate programmer, because it gives you not only sound, it gives you visual and sound. If we do not see this in our childhood, how many people run around claiming African?
Yeah, and I mean, they did his genealogy and traced it back to the quote-unquote white man that he says owned his family and raped his great-great-grandmother, and he played him down as basically quote-unquote poor white trash, but he wasn't. Not only did he not ever own slaves, but he also wasn't poor. Yeah, somebody went back and did his genealogy and debunked everything.
But now think about it. Now looking at who he descend from, and look at the damage of the work that he did.
Yeah.
Seem like
Yeah,
he's doing what he's supposed to do. Because you're looking at him and assuming that he's you.
This says, he writes in the final chapter, I'm on another article, I'm not going to read it. To the best of my knowledge, this is what he writes in the final chapter. To the best of my knowledge and of my effort, every lineage statement within Roots is from either my African or American family's carefully preserved oral history, much of which I have been able conventionally to corroborate with documents. Those documents, along with the myriad textual details of what were contemporary indigenous lifestyles, cultural history, and such that give Roots flesh, have come from years of intensive research in 50-odd libraries, archives, and other repositories on 3 continents. That was in his final chapter of Roots.
But you can't give not one source.
Yeah, maybe I should read this article.
I found an article that says Roots, a lie or a hoax to steal American land.
Whoa.
Get him.
I'm at the beginning. I'm up at the top. She deep down in the rabbit hole. Yeah, you can read that one. This is nothing over here.
I mean, it's not a long article, but it says Alex Haley's 1976 novel Roots and the 1977 miniseries was plagiarized from the 1977 book The African. Harold Corlander, the white author of The African, sued Alex Haley in 1978 for stealing his story. Through testimony, it was revealed Alex Haley stole Corlander's work and lied about his African heritage. Harold Corlander, who was white, wrote a novel called The African in 1967. The book is the story of an African boy captured by slave traders and his horrific trip across the Atlantic experience as cargo in a slave ship, and the horrors on a plantation in the new land. Corlander sued Haley for copyright infringement. Corlander's pre-trial memorandum on the lawsuit claimed defendant Haley had access to and substantially copied from the Africa without the African. Without the African, Roots would have been a very different and less successful novel. And indeed, it is doubtful that Mr. Haley could have written Roots without the African. Mr. Haley copied language, thoughts, attitudes, incidents, situations, plot, and character. Okay. The federal judge, Robert Ward, who presided over Haley's plagiarism trial, said, "I did not want to destroy him," and found the author of Roots, Alex Haley, guilty of plagiarism, and the case was settled out of court. Later, it was learned the federal judge told Corlander to keep quiet about the huge settlement because the Roots author had become too important to Black people to be torn down in public. Corlander was awarded $650,000, about $2.4 million today. Slavery is a lie. Roots and Kunta Kinte never existed. Alex Haley lied about his heritage. None of the written records in Virginia and North Carolina line up with Roots' story until after the Civil War. Despite his status as the United States best-selling storyteller, Haley's work have been excluded from the Norton Anthology of African American Literature. U.S. history is built upon lies and conjecture. Do not expect it to tell you the truth. Question your surroundings and challenge their rights to land.
Gabrielle, you cut out on my trip.
Can you hear me?
Check? Yeah, I can now. You said land is the last thing I heard.
Okay.
Rights to land or something.
No, my mouse scrolled up.
Unintentionally clicking.
Yeah,
Muscle
my mouse.
memory clicking. My mouse scrolled up. Check 1.
Land. Where did I see it?
How much did you read when you cut out? It was only like 10 seconds.
Background on Alex Haley. He was a 20-year-old U.S. government veteran when he wrote Roots.
Further up, maybe? I don't think I heard you say that.
No, that's...
Okay. Just to drop a little bit of quick information. Philip Noble writes, Haley was a literal rogue, an imposter whose purpose was so in-depth that he required ghostwriters throughout his career.
Wait. Say that again?
Philip Noble writes, Nobly writes, Haley was a literal rogue, an imposter. He was so in-depth that he required ghostwriters throughout his career. Upon reading Haley's private papers and interviewing one of his original editors for Roots, Nobly was able to determine that the latter's real author was Murray Fisher, Haley's editor from his time at Playboy. Fisher was also white.
This guy is amazing. Way to work the system, Lex.
From the link that's I think Gabrielle put in there, beliefnet.com. It goes deeper into detail. It goes deeper into detail on, I'm gonna use their words, how much of a fraud Alex Haley really is. They got everything in here.
Yes, they did his genealogy. They went to North Carolina pulling records. They did his genealogy and they pulled the records for his genealogy. Like they went all out to debunk anything he ever said, anything he ever put out. Anything.
He's saying they did more research than he did.
Man, right here I got what he settled for. It said the judge ambiguous finding that Haley was guilty of plagiarism. Haley agreed to an out-of-court settlement whereby he would pay Corlander $650,000, roughly $2 million in today's terms. So he paid a little over a quarter $250,000.
So yeah, can we toss them up in the back chat, please, so I can retrieve?
No problemo. Doing it right now. It breaks down all the investigations, all the people that came out and spoke against it, and come to find out he didn't write Roots. His editor from Playboy wrote it, whose name is Murray Fisher. The rabbit hole deepens.
Coming from where I'm from. This man don't know where he come from. Well, he act like he don't. This is ridiculous.
What's interesting
Appreciate you.
is that I think I put the link in the chat. If I didn't, I'll put it back in the chat. The Wikipedia link for Harold Corlander. Apparently from looks like 1940s up until 1960, he recorded recordings, and these are the titles: Negro folk music of Alabama, music of Indonesia, music of Haiti, drums of Haiti, folk music of India, cult music of Cuba, folk music of Ethiopia, folk and classic music of Korea, folk music of Romania, Palestine, Pakistan, Indonesia, folk tales from West Africa, Southeast Asia, Spain, Russian Middle East, Ukraine, Negro folk music of Africa and America, Negro folk music of Alabama, secular music, songs and dances of Haiti, Western Congo, Japan, Yugoslavia, Australia. Like, he went to different places. He also let me put this link in the chat.
He gathered a whole bunch of information to put a story together.
And he recorded tales. Apparently, the way they've got it worded is that he made a lot of travels to the southeastern Americas, the southeastern United States, recorded songs, tales, and music. He also recorded tales of the Hopi Indians. Okay, I'm putting this link in the chat. Okay, there it is. You got it?
What are you talking about?
The link I put in the chat.
You talking about the website? I'm not on the website. I'm on Twitch.
Oh, okay. I don't have
You can
Twitch.
yeah, no, back chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's actually an option. My bad. I do apologize.
It's okay.
I don't have Twitch.
You got a Twitch, but you ain't got Twitch.
Someone can post that the Wix, not Wix, the Roots link for Big Hawk in chat.
That the original one we started with?
Yeah.
The 1978 lawsuit, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Gabrielle, you have that one, right? You pulled it up as well, correct?
Yeah, what am I pulling up? What am I posting again?
I'm posting the article, the original article we started with, the 1978 Roots plagiarism.
The New York Times one? It's in the chat. Wait, where do you want me to post it?
Post it in the chat one more time for the new.
I got it. I'm reposting.
You got it.
Okay, don't post.
Post haste. Don't post.
Wait, did you get the Harold Corlander one?
Nope. Well, was that a BeliefNet?
No.
I
it's
did
a
not
Wikipedia
get
link.
Yeah, can you hit me that one in the back chat too?
Okay, it's in new chat.
That's fine. You making stuff up.
Okay.
There it is. I didn't get a notification, that's all.
Oh. Want me to read real quick or no? Wait, can y'all hear me?
To what? What was that word you said? To what?
Youth.
There it is. All right, so that's in the chat. All right, we good, right? We good. Right.
Okay, I'll be real quick.
Chat. I'm in the chat. Shout out to the chat. You can read.
Okay. Can I? Okay. Harold Corlander. Harold Corlander, September 18th, 1908 to March 15th, 1996, was an American novelist, folklorist, and anthropologist, and an expert in the study of Haitian life. The author of 35 books and plays and numerous scholarly articles, Corlander specialized in the study of African, Caribbean, Afro-American, and Native American cultures. He took a special interest in oral literature.
One more time. What do you specialize in?
In the study of African, Caribbean, Afro-American, and Native American cultures. He took a special interest in oral literature, cults, and Afro-American culture connections with Africa. Corlander was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, the son of a noted American painter, David Corlander, of Detroit, Michigan. Corlander received a BA, a bachelor's in English, from the University of Michigan in 1931. At the University of Michigan, he received 3 Avery Hopewood Awards, 1 in drama and 2 in literary criticism. He attended graduate school at the University of Michigan and Columbia University. He spent time in the 1930s on a farm in Romeo, Michigan. There, he built a 1-room log cabin in the woods where he spent much of his time writing. With the prize money from the Hopewood Awards, Corlander took his first field trip to Haiti, inspired by the writings of William Bueller Seabrook. William Bueller Seabrook was an American occultist, explorer, traveler, cannibal, and journalist born in Westminster, Maryland. He began his career as a reporter and city editor of Augusta Chronicle in Georgia, and later became a painter. Advertising agency in Atlanta. Okay, back to Harold Corlander. In 1939, he published his first book about Haitian life entitled Haiti Singing. Over the next 30 years, he traveled to Haiti more than 20 times. His research focused on religious practices, African retentions, oral traditions, folklore, music, and dance. His book, The Drum and the Hole, Life and Lore of the Haitian People, published in 1960, became a classic text for the study of Haitian culture.
Does it seem like to me, these people had a narrative and they created and gave us the culture off of it?
Yep. Absolutely.
Thanks, Alex. You made it easy.
Right. Just slap
it together now. This y'all.
Put a face that people can. Okay.
Before you go on, just real quick, it's amusing to me that the majority of our history and recorded information that's handed to us is coming from people that don't look like us.
Right.
That have no attachment to us whatsoever. Immigrants.
Right. And see this. I'm sorry.
This dude know nothing about I-80, but he went there trying to find cultural links between them and Africans.
Right. Not
you can
just
make
that.
anything possible.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, not just that. So Alex Haley was inspired by Harold Corlander. Harold Corlander was inspired by William Bueller Seabrook, who was an American occultist, explorer, travel, cannibal, journalist who was born in Westminster, Maryland. So, I mean, I don't know too much, but if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if occultist, cannibal, and all those other titles should go together. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Get nothing from you. But then that's why we say research is key. Because once you research, and what I always say about a book, when somebody be like, oh, I got this book, what's my first thing I say, y'all? Did you vet the person who wrote the book?
Facts.
Did you find who the author was influenced by? Where he got his information from? Who influenced him? Just because it's in the book does not mean diddly squat. You got to find out where that information in that book came from. Who gave it to that person? What was their belief? What was their ideology? Because again, these people are influenced by people that had a particular way of thinking, that believe that we were inferior, that we're trying to justify their actions. Fact, Big Nelson, people gonna try to tell us who we are off of fantasy. Ugh.
That's ridiculous. Ridiculously ridiculous.
Oh, they beat the drum on Ireland. Oh, they beat drums in African. Oh, they all African. Get out of here, man.
Yeah. All the way out. No, keep going.
And if you studying all these people, you studying Africans, Caribbeans, and Native Americans. Guess what, relatives? You can find a commonality between the three to link them together.
Oh, I found it. So William Bueller Seabrook. Yeah, Bueller. Anyone? He was all those titles that was given in 1915. He joined the American Field Service of the French Army and served in World War I.
Here we go.
And after 1916, after the war, he became a reporter for the New York Times and soon became a lieutenant. Oh, what is that? Itinerant? I don't know what that is. ITINERAN. Where's TMH?
So he can tell you, I don't know.
But he's good at botching up words and making them sound right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was all part of the military. That's where they get contact with each other, Celestial Love.
Oh, so Seabrook also published articles in the Cosmopolitan, Reader's Digest, and Vanity Fair.
People creating basically creating a story to put you in.
The reason why he's a cannibal in the 1920s, Seabrook traveled to West Africa and came across a tribe who partook in eating human meat. Seabrook writes about his experience in cannibalism in his novel Jungle Ways. However, later on, Seabrook admits the tribe did not allow him to join.
I'm sorry, Gabrielle, but I just could not let that one ride right there. You went to West Africa to a foreign group of people. Hold on. I gotta get this.
Oh, it gets better. Wait a minute.
Hold on. No, I gotta get this one out. You went to West Africa as a foreigner to a tribe of people that's known to eating people. So why they eat you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because let's see. Seabrook.
How do you talk to these people?
Listen, Seabrook admits that the tribe did not allow him to join in on the ritualistic cannibalism. Instead, he obtained samples of human flesh from a hospital and cooked it.
Man,
you know what?
Stop it.
This is where we got the roots from.
Wait.
Baloney.
In the
and we ain't talking about
it gets
We
better.
ain't talking about our best friend.
Listen, in the autumn of
Perfect
1990,
name.
English occultist Aleister Crowley spent a week with Seabrook at
Aleister
Seabrook's
Crowley?
farm. Yes.
Oh Lord. Aleister Crowley. I'm sure everybody's heard of Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, continue.
Keep going.
Seabrook went on to write a story based on the experience and to recount experiment in witchcraft, its powers in today. In 1924, he traveled to Arabia and sampled the hospitality of various tribes of Bedouin and the Kurdish Yazidi. His accounts of his travels, adventures of Arabia among the Bedouins, Druses, whirling dervishes, and Yazdi devil worshippers was published in 1927. Really? Okay.
Again. You leave America. You go to West Africa. You come upon a tribe that eat human beings. You are a foreigner to them. You don't speak their language. How did you communicate, and why didn't they eat you?
That's what I want to know. I want to know what tribe it was. Show me everything about this tribe that you went and visited.
Yeah, he published a book. He published a book in 1927 called The Magic Island. This book is credited with introducing the concept of a zombie to popular culture.
Bingo. I'm glad that we're doing this because it's showing you where this nonsense got put on us at. That all this mystical stuff was created and given to us.
By good writers.
I'm finna say it again.
Not great writers.
If I'm eating people, all right, y'all, we eat people. Somebody, a human being we have never seen, wander across our kitchen.
Why am I gonna sacrifice one of my own for?
Man,
just sacrifice him. He right there. I don't even know him.
But they would not let him be a part of their ritual. So how he know what happened?
That's what I want to know.
They wouldn't let him be a part of the ritual.
This sounds like Ace Ventura.
But he was able to go to flesh and cook it and eat it.
He had
listen.
An African guide.
What is he?
So he got committed to a mental institution by requesting his friends commit him to a mental institution, which then he later wrote a book called Asylum.
He playing games. This man out here.
Hold on.
When the journalism, when you out in the streets with the journalism, what's it called?
No, hold on. This man is committed. He's committed in the same asylum. And this is who they're trying to base our story and history off of. With people like this.
He requested his friends to put him in an insane asylum. I'm not crazy, but put me in here, please. I can't just go in myself. I ain't got no good excuse.
Okay.
I need to write a book.
Well, it's not just that. It's what they're trying to see. Okay. So people who don't understand, don't speak the language, don't know the culture, don't know the people, aren't friends with them. They gave Bones, you have said it so many times, they gave it to us.
Wrapped it up with a nice bow on it and said, here you go. Now you're African American. Enjoy. And that's the thing that people got to realize. This history, the reason why it's not in our great-great-great-grandparents, because they didn't start this until the 1900s. Timelines again.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go back, okay, not if, so I went back to Harold Corlander's bio, right? So in 1939, he published his first book, and thank you for correcting me, I-80 Singing, okay? Let's see, he traveled 20 more times, African Retention. Okay, his next book was The Drum and the The Drum and the Hall, Life and Lore of I-80 People. That was published in 1960. Now, Corlander, he also took numerous field trips to the southern United States, also known as American South or simply the South. It is a region of the United States of America. It is located between the Atlantic Ocean and the western United States, with the midwestern United States and northwestern United States to its north in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so the South, recording folk music in the 1940s and 50s. From 1947 to 1960, he served as a general editor of Ethnic Folkways Library. He actually devised the label name. He recorded more than 30 albums of music from different cultures. The cultures of Indonesia, Ethiopia, West Africa, I-80, and Cuba. In 1950, he also did field recordings in Alabama, later transcribed by John Benson Brooks. John Benson Brooks was an American jazz pianist, songwriter, arranger, and in the 1960s, Corlander began a series of field trips to the American Southwest to study oral literature and culture of the Hopi Indians. His collection of folk tales, People of the Short Blue Corn, Tales and Legends of the Hopi Indians, was issued in 1970 and quickly recognized as an indispensable work in the study of oral literature. From 1942 to 1943, during World War II, Harold Corlander served as a historian for the Air Transport Command for the Douglas Aircraft Project 19 in Guru. I'm about to botch this up. Eritrea. Okay, it is a country. It's a country in the Horn of Africa and East Africa. Corlander then worked as a writer and editor of the Office of War Information in New York City and in Bombay, India. In 1943 to 1946, from 1943 to 1946, from 1946 until 1956, he worked as a news writer and news analyst for the Voice of America in New York City. He was an information specialist and speechwriter for the U.S. mission of the United Nations from 1956 to 1957. He was a writer and editor of the United Nations Review from 1957 to 1960. From 1960 until 1974, Corlander was an African specialist, Caribbean specialist, feature writer, and senior news analyst for the Voice of America. Right.
This, I'm trying to think of how to word this.
Don't cuss.
This European, somehow born in America.
He was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and his dad was from Michigan.
Somehow, he's more of an expert on Africa than an African. What?
Yeah. I trust him. I would trust him.
Not to turn the light on for him. I keep saying it again. People want to see what they did and how they did it. Start from the 1900s and work their way to now.
He has a book, The Mesa of Flowers. Okay, so these books, Journey of the Gray Fox People, reissue of The Mesa of Flowers. So he wrote this book in 1977 and then rewrote the book. The book was, when did he die again? 1996.
Yeah, 96 stuff. Yeah, if I remember
so
correctly.
why did they rename it and reissue the book in 2006?
Re-release, probably updated some information. They good at doing that.
Okay, a treasury. A treasury of African folklore, a treasury of Afro-American folklore, tales of Yoruba gods and heroes, the heart of Ngani, heroes of African kingdom of Sigu, with Osman Sako. Okay, the drum and the hoe, life and lore of Aedi people, Negro folk music, Aedi singing, big falling snow, Hopi voices, recollections, traditions, and narratives of Hopi Indians, Negro songs from Alabama, the fourth world of the Hopis, shaping our times, what the United Nations is and does, Vadun in Aedi culture, in religion, politics in Aedi, on recognizing the human, and then another book on recognizing. You know what?
It goes back into what our brother James was saying. Voodoo is from here. Because you notice he didn't go to Africa to study it.
And I'm very curious why he just focused on the Hopi. Because I mean,
cultures too, so they can tie it in. Things that were similar.
Right, and I find it very curious that it focuses. It only gives Hopi as a name and title of Indians, of people, but they refer to in broad as Southeast or the South, in broad those different areas, but only specifies one area as Alabama, but doesn't talk about the other areas.
Creating their story, creating their narrative,
Mm-hmm.
and pieces together that they want to fit. You know, like forcing a puzzle.
And it's curious because the Hopi tribe, the reservation, is in Arizona.
Just because the reservation that don't mean that's where people are originally from.
Yeah, and that's what's got me. Let me see about this people of the short blue corn. Okay, my bad. I didn't mean for us to go off on this much of a tangent. I apologize.
Like I said, he said that he studied voodoo where in I-80. But then he go to Africa. You don't hear him about studying no voodoo in no Africa. It's in I-80. And if you think about it, if he's doing all this studying, I wonder if this is the dude that tried to link in the Haitians are Africans off of particular traits that you've seen that they had that were similar. So through writing, you link them together.
Yeah. I wonder if you know.
The thing that gets me is these people forgot they were African and didn't remember till a European came and told them, stop it.
Now, I'm wondering.
What you got?
Man. This thing don't stop. I don't want it to, but gosh. All right. Harold Corlander, and it's a book, so it's not giving me too much. It's not trying to, even with getting, I wasn't in this quick search, I wasn't able to find a PDF yet. People of the Short Blue Corn includes 17 Hopi stories, an introduction to Hopi people and the area of northern Arizona where they live. A pronunciation guide and glossary, a chapter about Hopi oral literature, and lengthy sections notes on the stories. In other words, it is a one heck of an introduction to Hopi culture. Harold Corlander intends for his collection of folklore to be much more than mere stories of entertainment. Instead, he uses them as a record of the people, their problems, their attitudes towards the world in which they live. This all sounds like studying psychology. That's what I'm hearing. Their
That's
values and their comments on the human condition. These stories were collected from 1968 to 1969 from residents of Shangopovi, Kopi, Haino, Tiwa, and Walpi. They were members of several clans: Bear, Coyote, Rabbit, Reed, and Tobacco. The stories vary widely in type, style, and tone, from the straight historical record with no mysticism or magical beings, such as how the Tiwas came to First Mesa, to historical records injected with mysticism or supernatural events, such as the root racers of Payuki, to whimsical animal capers such as Two Friends Coyote and Bull Snake exchange visits. This book includes several full-page illustrations by Enrico Arno. Each is dominated by geometric shapes and patterns in lieu of landscapes or backgrounds, although these are exactly what you find on baskets and pottery in that region when compared to the illustrations in the old Indian legends. Okay, I'm not going to click that just yet. These seem cartoon-like and whimsical. The biggest difference in People of the Short Blue Corn and other collections of Native American stories is the amount of information, especially history, that is included. Also, the author goes into great detail about how the various clans have developed their own version of their stories. He also demonstrates how the stories have been modernized. People of the Short Blue Corn is one of the best collections of Native American stories on the market, simply because the author did so much more than tell the stories in the book. It is an outstanding look at the history, culture, and beliefs in the Hopi people. Harold Corlander is one of the world's leading authors on folklore and folk music. He has written about Caribbean, Asian, African, and American Negro culture, lore, and music. He has written several novels and was awarded the Guggenheim Fellowship.
So he created fantasies of people and got awarded for it. And like Feather Dragon said, notice one of his books is called Shaping Our Times.
Correct. Old Indian Legends contains 14 stories with 6 featuring adventures of Spider Fairy Iktomi. He is an arrogant trickster who looks and dresses like a brave. You know what? I got some books I gotta get.
But that's why I say it's more important that when you collect these book relatives, that we vet the author, we vet who is his teacher and his teacher. Or what happens is, you get a book, you start reading it like it's historical, but it's all folklore, fiction. So now you have to ask yourself, how much of this folklore has bleeded in to become history?
Yeah.
And who decided what stories made it? Who decided what historical information made the collection? Whose decision was that?
Yeah, and why would they make it an issue? Because they didn't just go to the Hopi tribe. They went to other tribes. Why did they make it an issue to record stories, music? Why did they make it an issue to record these things?
Well, they were creating, like I said again, it seems to me like they were creating our story. And correct, Carl Pacola ancestor, voodoo is just another name for voodoo.
Yeah.
We have to realize a lot of times with these words, the spelling and pronunciation changed because the person that was writing or speaking was a foreigner. They're gonna write and speak it in their dialect, how they pronounce words. But again, if the man is telling you where he went to go learn it from, he was in Africa, and there's no story of him learning this stuff from Africa. And what it seems to me, he studied religious practices on the islands from Native Americans and from Africans and found similarities in their practices. It does not mean they were the same people. He found similarities in folklore. But what we learned in school about the story, I know we all did the little circle thing, put a bunch of people in the circle, tell a story, it goes around the circle, when it comes back, it's not the same story. Telephone. Now adds hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years to the telephone game. Matter of fact, add 1,000 years to the telephone game. You got what you had today. Misinformation that been pushed, and people been taking stuff and adding stuff to it year after year after year after year. Correct, copper color ancestor. You got voodoo and voodoo. And my own personal, because I haven't finished coming across all the records for it. To me, it seems like our ancestors, like Brother James said before, evidence is pointing to our ancestors took it there. Because we know that American Indians were sent to Africa to colonize it. There's records to show this. Who's to say that they didn't take it there with them? Because if people was over there already and nobody's recording these stories until after these American Indians get sent there, I mean, obvious answer is who took it.
Man, I'm over here reading smoking gun after smoking gun after smoking. I need to stop. I'm Gabrielle clicking.
All right, so okay, Folkway Records. Okay, it was Folkway Records and Service Company was founded by Moses Ashe and Marion Disler in 1948 in New York City. Harold Corlander was the editor of Folkway's Ethnic Library. Now, let me just say that it was a record label founded by Moses Ashe and Marion Disler that documented folk, world, and children's music. It was acquired by the Smithsonian Institute in 1987 and is now part of Smithsonian Folkways. Now, I'm stopping on that. That's a Wikipedia link. I'll put this link in the chat. What made me click even further was the fact that Marion Disler, her name was in red in this Wikipedia link. And you know, if it's in red, there's like a dead end. So you actually have to go Googling. Yes, I still use Google. So I pulled up a link to the New York Times archives. Marion Disler, who heads Folkway, she dies at the age of 45. Mind you, she was co-founder of Folkway Records. Now, she, in this article, and I'll put this link in the chat also from New York Times, the partners began a race against acculturation. Acculturation, I think that's right. ACCULTURATION, acculturation. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The partners began a race against acculturation, trying to preserve the authentic music of America and other countries before it was flattened out or homogenized by contact with the mass-produced music of the radio and other media. They found the long-playing record just coming into use and a great aid in their endeavor. Outlet for singers. They also wanted to provide an outlet for singers such as Woody Guthrie, Cisco Houston, and Huddy Ledbetter, known as Lead Belly. Miss Dessler became a friend and advisor of these and other singers. Why they thought it was a race to preserve music, culture, stories. Why did they find out? It also says that she's from America. And that's it. That's all they go into her history. They don't talk about, in this particular article, they don't talk about her mom, her dad, nothing.
If I had a collection of sounds and recording of your messages and content, Now I can take said recordings and manipulate them how I want for the form of control. Because if mass radio is dictating what people hear and how they react to it, and they're collecting all this, think about it. It's programming.
Right. She was recording it. She was doing these records and these recordings as preservation to not just the tribes, but other people. When she passed, the company added a series of records for children, an ethnic series. There wasn't an ethnic series before, and various spoken words, sound effects, and scene records, science records. Miss Dessler, she had very few interests outside the company and folk music in general. That's that. So I put these two links in the chat. I just wanted to kind of, she died in 1964.
Again, you can see this is showing us the story that we was fed. It is showing us who created it, who's behind it, and how it was done.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate the fact that you said it so many times, Bones. You got to vet. You've got to do the research on who you're reading from, whether it's a book, even down to you've got to do the research on who inspired them or what inspired them, because this right here is a prime example of, okay, we go from Alex Haley to Harold I can't even
Harold Corlander.
Harold Corlander to Seabrook to Aleister Crowley to, you know what I mean? Like, this is to the World War I, to the French Army. Okay, so Ash helped MGM Records start Verve Folkways Records. Okay, this record company was designed in 1967 with the concept of pop, rock, and folk music. But this is under MGM Records.
I'm finna say it again, and I said it the moment I came in. Our sounds are owned and controlled for a reason, because they learned and they always noticed how we reacted to music, to our sound. Now let's take said sounds. We study them. We realize that repetition teaches people. And through repetitive music, you can teach any skill set. So what happens when you control the messages in music? Look at the date when you say these record labels are getting established. Now look at the type of music that they were releasing.
You know, what's really interesting is the singers and the artists that started it and what it transitioned to. The faces, should I say.
Yeah, because if you know music history, these are the years in music to our ancestors wrote a lot of music, but they were not allowed to perform it. Right. Remember, you will have two versions of the song. You will have the radio version where it's the Europeans singing it. Mm-hmm. Then on the record, it'll be our people, but you wouldn't hear it on radio. You would have to actually buy the record. You was controlling the way people think and how people viewed stuff through the sounds that you was giving them. Because if radio, all you are hearing are these songs and the people singing them are Europeans, what does that program you to believe? That these talented musicians are what? That these writers are what? Are these Europeans? In reality, Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, I know the Appalachian Mountains, but what's Appalachian? What's considered Appalachian? And I'm saying this because I'm going over these bios of the artists. It started off what they've labeled now. Don't know what it was labeled then, and I'll do some more clicking. But it was a combination of what they're referring to as Appalachian folk music and African American blues.
Yeah.
Which
Folk
they've now
blues.
coined as contemporary music.
Yep. You also know it as gospel.
Yep.
Country. You know it as gospel and country. All these forms come from that. Our ancestors are the inventors of rock and roll, all the inventors of jazz.
Yeah, and I'm looking just at the pictures of the people that they're referring to who started it that you don't see, but I'm looking and seeing how the people basically that they taught or trained how to play these guitars and do this music, the appearance. This is going off of just what I'm seeing as far as the pictures that are attached to these names. The appearance changed.
Yeah. You
got to be careful what you see. You can't even believe what you see.
We taught them our skill sets to the point 2020, they don't even need the melanated artists anymore.
Right.
Because we done gave them the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing R&B, rap, rock and roll. They're doing all of it. I mean, you can go back and you can see what Chubby Checker and them had to sue these rock groups for using their music.
Mm-hmm.
Howlin' Wolf and all them, Little Richard and all them. These are the inventors of this rock and roll. You know, the music they made us run away from, they told us it wasn't ours.
Yeah. And the Smithsonian, they have these recordings. They have, You know, I read a study some years ago, and I guess this is an interesting fact, that the reason why they switched, one of the main reasons why they switched, there was something to deal scientifically, there was something that had to deal with the records. When the records would play, it's the fumes that would come from the needle and the record. Yeah.
It's 44.1. Music isn't 44.1. They put it in 44.1 for the form of control. It's a frequency.
Well,
and
it wasn't just
how it works. You hear a particular beat amplified at a particular level, it makes you feel a particular way. An aggressive beat makes you feel aggressive.
It wasn't just the beat.
No,
this
what I'm
was
trying
off
to
the
say is it's the frequency. See, a guitar is a guitar, but the frequency you play the guitar back in, it changes the message. It's like when I'm teaching artists how to play the guitar or the piano. You know what I'm saying? An instrument is an instrument. It's played the same way. Like if you play piano, you can play guitar, the notes, all instruments have the same notes. What makes it change is the frequency. Like when we're mixing sounds, we change the frequency to get a particular reaction from the crowd. Now, once you know this scientifically, you can use music to control people.
Right.
Da 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 triggers your subconscious to get your mouth watering to make you want food. This is tested.
Well, this part wasn't about the frequency. This was about the chemical that's released when the needle burns the record. And they found that melanated people, anyone who is melanated, it actually calmed them with the I guess it's some type of chemical that hits the air when the record is playing, and it's like it was this study that they did, and they wanted to.
You hear me, Gabrielle? They're telling you chemical, but it wasn't the chemical; it was the frequency
that calmed.
Calmed you down. That's why the push was pushed away from modern households, from having record players, to start having tapes.
And even the tapes was an issue because it was still the same material.
But listen to what I'm telling you, Gabrielle. I'm telling you directly from having experience when working with music for 20 plus years. It's not the smell or the chemical, it's the sound. Play a song on record then play that same song on tape, then play that same song on CD. All three versions will sound and you will react differently to them.
Oh, okay, my bad. I'm listening. I'm sorry, I'm listening.
Yeah, like get a Michael Jackson Thriller, get the album and get the CD. They will sound different. You will react differently.
Yeah, they do. They do sound different.
It's the frequencies. You change the frequency. A person can make you aggressive by bombarding your subconscious with aggressive frequencies. They can make you docile by playing mellow frequencies. This is not. And that's what they did with the music. Why do you think aggressive gangster music is bombarded on us heavily? Because if the father learning his repetition, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s were learned by repetition, and you learned them by a song format. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's the frequency. That's a pattern. You know what I'm saying? It's a reteachable pattern. So now what happens if I take the same pattern and I put the words, sell that dope, sell that dope, sell that dope, sell that dope, sell that dope over 1,000 times daily? Subconsciously, what do you think you're going to be more likely to end up doing and accepting?
You know, I wondered why I'm not going to say all of a sudden, but why some of these, what is it called? Mumble rap? Why they sound like nursery rhymes. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yep, and their ad libs are literally telling you what to do.
Template. It's the same format of a nursery rhyme. You get what I'm saying? So now subconsciously, you're already locked in because your brain is used to that pattern. Now, suggestions change in the pattern. See, the same pattern that taught you ABCs 1, 2, 3 ran back can teach you to do some of the most destructive things to you and your people.
And if you're not, okay, so let me ask you this. This is a thought I'm having right now. So when we embrace the culture, are we not breaking that repetitiveness when we embrace the language, the culture, the music, when we embrace it all? Are we not breaking that pattern? Or wait, are we breaking that? If that makes sense?
No, repeat it again. It broke up on my end.
Oh, I'm sorry. If we're embracing, we embrace the culture, the language, we even down to song, are we embracing that breaks the pattern, or breaks what okay, so this is a thought. It's coming out. It may be coming out wrong. So like when you're referencing and referring to, you know, how we learn the alphabet song, ABC, in that, but when we break away from that, when we turn away from learning in that way, are we not breaking the pattern for our children and going forward, if that makes sense?
Depends on what you replace the messaging with. See, you can turn away all you want, but if you don't change the messaging, the programming, you're just trading in one form of indoctrination for another.
Gotcha.
See, the format and how we learn isn't the problem. It's what you're given with said format that becomes the problem. See, we're not taught to think. We're taught to take what the books say as is. We're taught to take what somebody tell us as is. We're not taught to question. We're not taught to rationalize.
Right.
Listen to the music that you hear today. Some of the most craziest things are being suggested to you to do in a song, and you don't question it.
Right. Like, I don't want to pop no pills. I don't even think that's fun.
I mean, I think me and Nocella had this conversation over this weekend. Well, like, do people get it that if you was born in the 70s, you grew up when baggy clothes meant you was bummy. You always wanted to your pants, everything had to fit, had to be nice. They turned us around in the 90s and had us wearing saggy clothes. Programming off of something that we laughed at as children, we did as teenagers,
or
as young
even
adults.
rips in your clothes. Like, you couldn't rips in your clothes and snags and all this. And I'm like, hold on, this man got a shirt out that literally looks like somebody took it over a cheese grater. How much is this shirt? I'm confused. Wait, am I on mute again?
We were taught to value things that have no value.
Right.
Wearing your clothes inside out, the way your clothes backwards.
Yeah, they tried it with crisscross, wearing your pants
Ain't no
backwards
try.
with your pockets hanging out.
Let's don't even sit here and say try, because you know, just like I know, there's a couple of us this rising that's in this chat that was wearing our clothes backwards. Jump.
Me personally, I had to use the bathroom, and no. Now I did wear cross colors. But yeah, nah.
But it just shows how music, along with these visuals, reprogrammed us, relative.
Oh my goodness, music makes you lose control.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
But now,
I just caught that.
Yeah, Carl Kanai, David Corey Hill. Think about it. This music videos programmed us. It gave us this so-called culture of ours. The so-called African-American culture was created through music and TV and given to us. They handpicked your icons, your celebrities, and had them put this stuff on, and we ate it up. What, we gonna forget We Are the World? They used us for a full food drive. I mean, really, that's why I'm gonna keep saying, because I'm a part of that generation, is that we are guilty of a lot of these things. That we actually pushed a lot of this stuff on, whether it was knowingly or not. We did it. And that's why I'm gonna keep saying the responsibility falls on us, because we were them teenagers that was doing this stuff. We were the ones running around mimicking it and not asking questions. I mean, even look at it this way. In our culture, we went from carrying and dressing ourselves a particular way, showing respect, to now you got men dressing like women, women half naked, and it's cool. And nobody's taking the time to realize that the children are watching this, even to the point they got some of us encouraging our children to do this. Oh, it's okay, they're just children. No, it's not. Because if you let them do it repetitively, now that becomes a habit and it becomes a part of them. And what they tell you about some habits are hard to shake.
Cocaine is a drug.
If there's nothing else, I see we about to go on to 11. We can go ahead and give our closing remarks, salutations, let everyone get their day on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to change the title.
Yeah, no problem. But it was worth it, though. It was worth it.
Definitely was. Well, I guess is that our Black History contribution? Destroying roots. I got Mo.
Any closing remarks, Gabrielle?
Okay. So continue on on your genealogy journey. Know who you are, so no one can tell you who you are. Census is coming up, April 1st to be exact. That's Census Day. Do the census. Get active in your community. Become aware of what's going on. Venture off on the Census Bureau website. Venture off on the HUD website. There are resources. There are programs for programs for programs for resources for resources for resources. I'm just saying. But yeah. And today's lessons, boys and girls. Research who you reading from. Research who you watching from. Because then maybe you'll have a better understanding of what you're reading or what you're seeing. I mean, regardless of what people think or feel or possibly know, as a whole, we are all going through this together. And we are all responsible for what we do going forward, what we say going forward, how we're involved, how we're not involved, perspective, choice, and options. Those words, I don't even know if they're defined correctly in the dictionary now. I'm just saying, I don't. We gotta pay attention. We gotta pay attention. So shout out to Double Cousin for these wise words. Appreciate it, as always. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. The promise of a hopeful future is a motivation for the pursuit of our dreams. If there is hope in the future, there is literally power in the present. A strong mind always hopes and has always cause to hope. So yeah, have a beautiful day, everyone.
All right, got anything no sell out?
Yep. Peace to the panel. Peace to the chat. Appreciate everybody for showing up today on this nice Friday. It's kind of chilly. It was warm yesterday. But yeah, anyway, man, like she said, do your genealogy. Stop playing. Know who you are. Stop asking for reparations. That's relevant to what I was just doing a second ago. But yeah, man, don't let somebody give you your history, please. Stop. You should be an adult about your genealogy and who you are. Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns, and or especially corrections, please hit us up at attentionassembly@gmail.com. And yeah, we got a phone number you can call. Most of the time it's 24 hours. Somebody on the line. And yeah, we'll see y'all mañana. Peace, y'all.
All right. Thanks, Gabrielle and No Sellout, for another excellent job on this Rising Show. Would like to thank the active chat and the solid majority, because again, without all parties coming together, this would not be possible. And basically, again, going through the myth of Alex Haley and our history shows again why it is very, very, very important that when you do research the research, research the author, find out what schools they attended to, find out what their motivations and narrative was. So that way it lets you know what's the agenda, what's the reason, and what's the purpose of said stories. Again, we have the opportunity to get this right. We have the opportunity to fix the conditions of our communities. But it falls on us being active. It falls on us making sure that we do our due diligence to correct every bit of misinformation, falsehood that pops his head out when it's dealing with our stories. So again, relatives, continue the great work in your communities. Continue taking the time out to conversate with your neighbors, to learn how your local politics work, to learn what you can do today to affect your community for a better tomorrow. Continue to work on your genealogy. Never let anyone tell you who you are. Never let anyone tell you who you are not. Find out for yourself. And once you find out, make sure you document and copy these records. So for your future generations, we'll never have to go through this. We'll never have to worry about someone else trying to tell them who they are. We'll never have to worry about someone else trying to give them a created story as their history. And moving forward, this also shows why we must not remain silent. Because when we are silent, we allow others who look like us to represent us and to put these false narratives and stories that affect our conditions across this globe. So on that note, let's raise our voices to the highest level possible to make sure 7 generations from now, the sounds that we make today are still echoing through history. So on that note, remember that we love you. And until we meet for the next Rising Show, peace.
Peace, everybody.
Play too much.
You play too much.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to sound like a heathen. So peace to the panel, peace to the chat, and peace to the silent majority.
A heathen? Hmm?
You know, I have them moments.
I implore, never mind. I was about to shout out. Never mind. Don't.
Oh,
Peace
shout out to Giovanni.
Triple G?
Message.
This site works.
You know this, man.
The number works.
Oh, and thanks again for everyone who called in, who went down to their local communities, who attended their local meetings yesterday and over the weekend. And like I said, we're going to get this done. So like we said, if you have questions on how to address your local community representatives, who to go to about getting these community gardens off the ground so we can start changing our communities, contact us. That's what we're here for. If we don't know, we will find someone who do know to get to the bottom.
Real quick, fast in a hurry.
Slap.